What is up? Welcome back to another video. We're here Monday, traditionally the news day, and while we don't have any news, I do have a bit of a news recap of the year that was. Basically, I just compiled some headlines, some things I want to chat about, just something to kind of take a minute and reflect on all the stuff that happened this year, because what I would surmise is kind of a waning popularity. The bubble's slowly deflating on the overall hype on film photography. More companies are getting into it, kind of inflating the interest in the market, and it's been a very interesting year because of that. So we'll get into that, but before we do, we also on Mondays take a moment to thank the members of the channel whose lovely names are right here. If you join the channel, you get access to exclusive videos, early access to other videos, and the special shout out once a week. There's also other perks, such as the holiday letter, which is going out in the mail soon. Everyone who is a member who emailed me their address, they got on a list. I typed them up a letter, and they will be getting that for the holiday season. So if you want access to perks such as that, other things I'm cooking up, you just want to support me, you can do that, and it would be greatly appreciated. However, if you don't, that's completely fine. Just like the video if you enjoy it, subscribe to the channel. That support helps all the same. That out of the way, let's get into the news stuff that we have. As mentioned, kind of a busy year, lots going on. So we'll start off with the new cameras. There were a few that came out this year, actually quite a few. So I'm gonna go over like the three big ones, which is actually pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Three cameras came out this year. So starting off with the most popular, I would say, was the Pentax 17. Now, I could be incorrect about this, but I believe the last film camera to be sold by one of the major companies was the Nikon F6, which stopped sales in 2020. I don't remember when the last film camera was put in production, but the F6 was released in 2004, meaning it's been at least, or at most, I would say 20 years since a major camera company has released a film camera. So Pentax broke the trend this year in releasing the 17. Now there was rumors for a little bit, and at the start of the year some of the specs dropped. We had a picture leak, we had some product images leak, and then they just kind of dumped it out on us, released it to a bunch of influencers who made videos about it, and then the public got their hands on it. And from the impetus of the idea, there were a lot of people hoping for, you know, a modern Spotmatic, a modern K1000, a modern whatever. The more the details came out, the less interested people got, and we kind of got a split into two groups. We got people just excited to have a film camera, then we got people that were hoping it would be something different. So that gap widened, I would say, when the release inevitably happened. More people, again, were hoping for something different. I would probably situate myself in the latter of those camps. Ultimately, the camera came out, and in terms of camera releases this year, it was probably the most publicized, it was the most well-received, and now we have a modern film camera that, while yes, a lot of people aren't going to enjoy, there is also a large number of people who do really like the camera, or at the very least are just happy to have a new camera. I would consider myself happy to have a new camera. It's definitely not for me personally, but it is a new thing, and it shows, again, interest in the market, which is something I'm excited to see. And also, given my time working at a camera shop, being face to face with a lot of film camera users, they're very particular people, myself included, and the likelihood that you're going to introduce a singular product that is going to appease all of them is never going to happen. It's just not. Everybody wants a little bit something different. Everyone has different needs, different desires. So I think that Pentax did probably the right thing by trying to target the incoming audience, trying to inspire people to get into film. So for that, more power to them. The product itself is what it is. I've made plenty of videos on it, but it's a new camera, 2024. That alone is pretty exciting. We have another new camera that came out this year, earlier this year actually. It was the Lomomatic 110, which is interesting because I don't know very many people who shoot 110. I like shooting 110, I think it's fun. I like my Pentax Auto 110, I think it's a fantastic camera. Outside of the Pentax, there's a Minolta 110, and then there's some other more simplistic 110 cameras, but there's really not a wide range of 110 systems for people to get into. So I think introducing this new camera is good for the average consumer that might want to get into 110 photography. Lomo is also maybe one of two companies that makes 110. I believe maybe Film Photography Project might make some 110 film, but I do know for a fact Lomo does. So it would make sense that they would be the one to release the camera for it. I've heard mixed results on it. Some people love it. Other people have had issues with the shutter not firing properly. I don't really know. The likelihood I get my hands on one is slim to none, but it is interesting. They're releasing different models of it, different, designs and all that stuff, which then finally we go on to the Rollei 35 AF, which was a film camera that was released a few months ago. Received a lot of praise when it was first announced because the Rollei 35 system is well loved by a lot of people. Hey, why not add an autofocus system to it? That'd be great. And I think as time kind of wore on, the hype kind of died down a little bit. They did the opposite, I think, of what Pentax did, where Pentax fed a little bit of information and then dumped it on us. Rollei 35 gave a lot of information and then was very silent, and then it was released. So it didn't really offer a lot of opportunity for the hype to gradually build and then for the excitement to come out and all this stuff. It was just kind of, oh, now here it is. And I've received, again, mixed reviews on it. Some people really do love it and they've enjoyed it quite a bit. Other people have had issues with it, whether that's user or the system, I'm not entirely sure, but there have been some issues. Anyway, not to speak out of turn, but it's $850, so it's the most expensive of all of the cameras that were released. And really what it is an autofocus motor system put into a Rollei body. So if that's something you're into, that that exists for you. It's a full frame system as well, so that's kind of cool. I'm not sure where any of these projects will land in terms of overall success. I'm hoping that the companies leverage their financial success from these and push on to creating other products. And I hope this serves as kind of a litmus test for other brands to look at the success that they're having and say, maybe we should try to get back into it. That'd be great. But we will see. Time will tell. Posted a short yesterday from the interview I did with Matt from Reveni Labs. I'll link that up here. In that we kind of talked about a hypothetical project of creating a film camera. My initial idea was taking the universal Cosina CT1 shutter and then just building a camera body around that. He countered that with, what if we took a full frame DSLR shutter and built a body around that, something like a Nikon D850, and then repurpose like a prism and other components from DSLR models into that. I'm not sure if that's ultimately the best approach, but it is something that's very feasible. I'm sure that if a bigger name company was to get into it, they'd probably do it differently. But it is something that's very interesting to consider, just getting the shutter unit, getting all of the electronics taken care of, having a power supply system, the prism, mirror, and then you're good to go pretty much. So something to consider, something to think about. The interview was a lot of fun. Link that as well if you want to check it out. And speaking of Matt from Reveni Labs, the products that came out this year that I'm really excited about was the shutter speed tester. That was huge. It was announced about a year ago. I had a very successful Kickstarter campaign. It was released a few months ago. I have one. It's fantastic. It really, in my mind, it does a lot to expand the scope of the current field. It's not just another camera that someone slapped their name on. It's not just another repackaged thing of film. This is a completely new product that enhances the experience of a film photographer, or in my case, a film camera technician. So that's fantastic. They're incredibly affordable for what they are. Modernity built into it, updates, easy calibration, super easy to use. I'll have another video on it this week, how to use it, all this other stuff, how to build it, and Matt's a great guy, great company. Definitely recommend supporting him if you can. The other product that I was really excited about that I kind of talked about, I think last week, was the Keks Flash. Should be getting one relatively soon here, so I will do a more in-depth review on that. But again, I just want to highlight it because There are modern flashes out there, but they're incredibly expensive and they're more designed for digital cameras. This, I feel like, takes the intrinsic design value of older film photography flashes and has some modern elements to it, but still maintains that sleek and minimalist design, and looks like really good build quality as well. So I'm pretty psyched about that. Moving on to the film this year. This one's a bit of a mixed bag, I'll be honest. There's some stuff on here that's cool, and there's some stuff on here that's but I want to talk about things because there's actually a surprising amount of film news this year. So right off the bat, we have Adox, which is a company that nobody talks about. Every now and again, you'll see a video pop up like, this is the new color film that nobody talks about, blah, 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 something like that. But a few years ago, they released their Color Mission series, and that was the whole goal they had in producing their own color film emulsions. They released one to mixed reviews. I think a lot of people thought very favorably about it. It's very hard to come by from what I can tell, and if you can get it, it's fairly expensive, but I've not heard much about that from there. And then they released news in January or February about a new color mission film called Helios, which was supposed to be like 3-speed and very, very warm, red tinted color film. I've not seen anything else about that outside of like people reacting to it, and the reactions were perplexed, mainly confused. A lot of people were like, cool, I guess, why this? I don't think it was benefited by the fact that it came out on the heels of the Harman Phoenix release, which Harman Phoenix had similar qualities but a higher speed, so it's a little bit more versatile. Ultimately, I don't know where the Helios project ended up. I've tried reaching out to Adox on a number of occasions. If anyone has a contact there and would be willing to help me out, that'd be fantastic, because it'd be great to talk about it or at least figure out what's going on. I don't know, outside looking in here, just a thing that I was like, oh, that was a thing that happened, and I was kind of interested to see how it was going to come out. I would have shot a roll through it just for fun. Big news item that came out was Flic Film. Came back into prominence with their really affordable releases of black and white film. Reformed Film Lab just got a big shipment of them, so if you want to buy some stateside, they have it on sale there. Reflex Labs also has it on sale as well. But the big ticket item, the big story, was the color film. When's it coming out? Allegedly, one of the CEOs or whoever was in charge of Flic was speaking with a representative and talking about end of the year. Now, we got about 3 weeks left in the year, so I highly doubt that that's going to happen. It could, but I highly doubt it. And going off of the conversation I had with a representative from Reflex Labs, they are also skeptical as to whether or not that deadline is going to be met. I did receive a comment in the last video. Someone was mentioning that since it is a Chinese company, they could be operating off the lunar calendar, giving them like a few more months for that end of the year deadline. And so if we're going to be charitable, we would say that that's the case. You know, February, I think, is the Lunar New Year cycle or something of that sort. Maybe that was their projected plan. I still kind of doubt that that's going to happen, because that's just like a couple more weeks, and the fact that there's really been no news or no updates on that, I guess we'll see. Obviously, I would like it to happen, because I think any kind of competition would be nice to see, but also at the same time, I think it's safe to say I'm relatively skeptical about that. It sounds great on paper, but I'm going to wait until it happens. I've yet to hear from them regarding this update, so we'll see if it shakes out, but at least they have black and white film. That's pretty cool. And even if it isn't by the end of the year, maybe we'll have lucky color film in 2025. Then we have another not new film, Harman Phoenix. It was released in 120 a few months ago, actually. And I think that was probably one of the best things that they've done. It really stoked the ashes of the original release and rose into much grander fanfare and acceptance of the film photography community. Kind of like a phoenix. That one hurt me too, believe me. I'm not happy about it either. But I do think the release of Phoenix in 120 Did bring a lot of people back into it because 120, obviously you're going to have better quality to work with. It's bigger negatives and stuff like that. I personally was pushing for Phoenix and 110 because I just thought that'd be hilarious. Nobody else agreed with me. Nobody thought it was funny. So they have it in 120. That's great. It's been out for a year now, and I think it has a resurgence in acceptance from the community. People know how to shoot with it a little bit more. Labs know what they're doing with it more. And again, 120 gives you more information to work with. So I think ultimately it delivers on a better product to some degree. So I'm excited to get my hands on that. It should be coming in the mail soon. I have another roll of Phoenix in 35mm that I want to try out. We'll see how that shakes out. And then finally we have Ferrania P33, which I believe released this year. If not, it was the tail end of last year. Regardless, I'm going to talk about it because I do love Ferrania. I've loved them since P30 came out. Any opportunity I can get, I want to try to promote their brand. I've reached out to them a number of times trying to establish some kind of communication, promote their brand with new product releases or whatever they have planned. Yet to hear back from them, but Ferrania P33 is a very nice, I would say artisanal black and white film. It's going to be a little bit more expensive than some of your HP5s or your Tri-X's or your Kent mirrors or anything like that. But I really enjoy the quality, the aesthetic of the overall film. And it's just really cool to see a very old school company be reintroduced into space and relatively modernized. So cool. Check out Ferrania P33 if you so choose. We have a couple of companies that really popped into the collective landscape here. They've probably been around for longer than 2024, but they've, I feel like, grown to a little bit more popularity, and that is Candido and Flic Film. Candido has a really solid community, really good fan base of people. The social media profile that they have is really established. A lot of people, including myself, were featured this year just by posting pictures of things shot on Candido film. It's going to be interesting to see how recent news is going to affect their selling of film. I guess we'll kind of play that one by ear, but for now it's just cool to see a really well integrated business with its community. Overall builds hype in the brand and just hype in film photography in general. And then we have Flic Film, which again does kind of a similar thing, but it sells all of its stuff for incredibly affordable prices, which again just brings more people in to this hobby. It brings more people into the field, brings more perspective in. Excited to see what they do as well moving into the next year. I'd love to work with them in the future and see what else they have on the horizon. The final story that I kind of want to touch on briefly is something that came up months ago when Google launched its AI Gemini. In the promo, a guy had a film camera that broke and Gemini was like, oh, open the film back or whatever. I have a lot of like conflicting feelings on AI. Part of me is like, this is just, it feels like another one of those fads like cryptocurrency or NFTs. AI seems like the next logical conclusion to that. The other thing I have more of a ethical issue with it is, from my understanding, which is a very rudimentary understanding, so correct me if I'm wrong, but AI is basically a computational system where it takes a lot of data that's out there, intakes that, and distills it into something that's easily digestible. Something to that degree, which on one hand is cool because maybe somebody doesn't have time to watch one of these like 20-minute long news videos. They just want the quick spark notes of 5 minutes, but then it also undercuts, you know, the value that I and other creators possess because we spent time creating these things, and for it to all just be kind of, you know, garbage compacted into a quick, you know, sentence. Yeah, maybe this video doesn't need to be 20 minutes long, but also putting it out there to share with people to also hopefully make money off of it. And AI in some route is kind of taking that opportunity away. So it's a very interesting thing. And then the argument is, well, if you don't want AI to take it, then why put it out there? But obviously the landscape of media has changed so much to the point where it is impossible to, it's impossible to be successful in this business unless you have some variation of online profile, whether that's sharing your photos on something like Instagram or on your own personal website or making videos on YouTube. It's just, you can't reach any kind of meaningful goals that you might have as a creator unless you are partaking in that more modernized of things. So AI kind of exploits everyone's need to do that in a way that I'm not entirely sure I'm cool with. But regardless of how I feel about it, it's a thing that's happening. I find it to be interesting. And the other thing I find interesting is that I've made about 600 plus videos on this channel alone regarding film cameras. A lot of my earlier videos were film camera repairs, and the likelihood that somebody gets a film camera and it doesn't work, and then they go to Google and be like, why is my film camera broken? There is a strong possibility that Google will try to take one of my videos and crunch that up and deliver that as the answer to why is my film camera not working, in a way that I don't think I'm comfortable with, because it's probably just going to be a sentence of take camera apart, get headache, drink coffee, complain. And, you know, listen, that's my modus operandum. That's how I've been doing this for way too long now. But I don't, that's, you know, it's a skill, okay? This is a skilled trade. I don't think anyone can just take a camera apart and complain about it. That's a me thing. That's my brand identity. So we're just selling that now? Gemini? Fucking post up, son. What you got? All that to be said, I'm just interested to see how AI influences all of the creative landscapes moving forward, whether that's photography, videography, what have you. It's a very interesting thing to consider, and something that kind of rose to prominence this year. So we'll see where it goes, just something I'm keeping my peepers on. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, pretty busy year for 2024 for film photography, for all of us here on the channel. Lots of growth. I'm looking forward to the next year, all the news that is to come. I'm looking forward to continuing this Monday news tradition, bringing more people in, sharing more stories, and just continuing to excite people about the prospects of film photography continuing. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything you want me to talk about, feel free to leave those in the comment section down below. Like the video if you enjoy it, subscribe to the channel as well so you don't miss out on future content. Thank you very much for watching, appreciate it as always, and I will catch you on the next one.